Hello, hello, Facebook. Listen, it is your girl, Realtor Audrey, and I am here with some amazing ladies tonight. So one is my friend, mom of six, entrepreneur, and just community advocate, minister, and all the things. This woman wears so many hats, and I'm so proud of her. And her newest hat is homeowner. So her name is Cynthia Williams-Bey, and she will be joining us tonight for a open and honest conversation about what it took to go from renting to actually owning a home. Now, the beautiful thing about her story, guys, the reason it's so inspiring is this is a dream that her and her amazing husband, Andre Williams-Bey, had been working towards. And now she is leaving a legacy for their children with the purchase of their home. And then part of the reason she was able to get there was the Kiana Henderson. She is a credit counselor, guys. I've spoken with many of you and you've said, Audrey, I want to be a homeowner, but I have some credit challenges. I hear you loud and clear. So I wanted to get the expert herself on the line to share with you guys how she can help you go from renting to actually owning, because that is what she does. All right, guys, I'm going to bring both of these ladies on and we're going to start the conversation with the Mrs. Cynthia Williams-Bey.
Hey.
Hey, ladies. Good to see you.
How you doing?
Listen, I'm doing amazing. I am so honored to be on this call with you ladies. Thank you so much for agreeing to hop on a live with me and just talk about this journey. Part of the reason that I got into real estate, I know my own mom, I was an adult before my mom was a homeowner. And I truly do believe that that was a lot of the reason why as a child, I lacked stability in my own childhood because we moved around quite a bit, right? Mm-hmm. And being a homeowner, I feel would have made all the difference. But guess what? No one educated her. No one let her know what the possibilities were. And no one told her that this is doable even as a single mom. So let's have this conversation tonight and give some folks some hope. What do y'all think about that?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So Cynthia, I want to start with you. And my goodness, your story is such a beautiful one. I'm not finna cry on here.
No, first off, I'm like, where's the Kleenex? You got me looking around like, where's the Kleenex tissue? Because you're about to make me mess up all this beat.
All here looking gorgeous. Just look at first off, how you got 6 babies, okay? A little newborn baby, and you sitting up here looking like a whole supermodel.
Let me tell you, moms stick together because I have my artist and friend, Miss my makeup bride Brianna Barrett. Well, Jones now because she married. But she's a mom too, and she does like my makeup and stuff. And the cool thing about it, you know, when you kind of connect with other moms that's in entrepreneurship, you kind of build each other up. And one thing that I love about her is she's flexible. So she actually comes to my home and she helps with my makeup and hair. And listen, she bring the baby and everything. So yeah.
Girl, you looking like straight fire. You look amazing.
I was nursing and getting my hair. Yes, man.
I love it. So Cynthia, I feel like we have to start from the beginning with your story. Right? Can we talk about how you and Dre, right? Our friend, our brother, how you and Dre started this journey to home ownership and where you were, let's say 12 months ago versus where you are now.
Man, I wish I could say 12 months ago. It started way before 12 months ago, you know, several years ago, you know, just Andre and I both, just our background, where we grew up at. Me, I was raised by a single mom. Andre, you know, his mom, she was a single mom and she was married. So it was kind of like we both kind of had the different struggles. he had a little bit more stability than I did in regards to, you know, the household. But my mom never owned anything, whereas my mother-in-law, she did have some home ownership. So Dre had a little bit of knowledge about things when it came to finances and stuff like that. And just, he was able to see that stuff and actually tangibly live, where for me, you know, it was public assistance. It was a house full of us, 6 siblings, and all my siblings. I'm the baby with my mom. I'm the baby. So imagine being a baby and you have 5 older siblings, and then they have their spouses living in the house, and then they have kids. So it was like a whole lot of us in that Brooklyn apartment, you know? So as far as like home ownership and things like that, I never saw that. I never had anybody really talk to me about like stewardship, money, credit, and things like that. So the first thing when I got to Farmingdale, that was the college I went to in New York, and they started sending credit cards. I'm like, ooh, I hit the lotto. Come on. And I'm maxing out cards and not really understanding how it could affect me in the long run. So
Cynthia, let's pause right there for just a second, if you don't mind, because
yes.
How many of us have made that mistake of going through college or just getting access to a credit card and maxing it out? Guilty. I've been there, right?
Yes.
So, and Kiana, how often do you see that when it comes to credit repair?
Often. That's one of the most popular things, maxing out cars, especially for younger, the 20, like, post college or freshmen in college. That's definitely who a lot of those car companies target the most. So
Yeah.
Yes.
And she hit it right on the head, because it's very strategic. It's intentional about the targeting. My goodness. Yes. So it's so important to make sure that we're educating the community about, because Kiana, are there, and I know there are, but what can you give us like 2 tips to wisely use a credit card? And then we're going to go back to Cynthia.
Well, I always suggest to use, less than 30% of the card. So, for example, if your limit is $200, you don't want to use more than $60 a month. If you do use it, then by the time it is due and reporting on your credit report, you just want to make sure it's under 30%. Now, the lower percentage, the better, of course, but definitely not more than 30% is the recommended. That's the first tip. And the second tip I would give will definitely be about setting reminders to pay. Because, cards, it's easy to forget to pay your cards. So, I put reminders in my phone, whatever form of communicate, like whatever you plan your life with, whether it's a paper planner, your phone as a planner, your computer, jot it down at your due date, and just, make it a monthly recurring date in your calendar for all of your card payment dates.
That is great advice. Good. Yeah, that's great advice. And I do have 2 more questions for you really quick. So what are your thoughts on those that are paying the minimum balance on their card?
Man, well, when you're only paying the minimum, then you're paying extra in interest, unless you're not utilizing it and you're only, actually spending that amount. That's the minimum, which is very rare. But you're spending more money in interest. It's gonna take you longer to pay it off. I always tell people, credit card companies have to tell you if you pay the minimum, how long it'll take you to pay it off. It's on the back of your credit card statement. So I always tell people to read that and see how long it will take you to pay it off if you only stick to the minimum payment. So you definitely don't want to do that at all. You want to make sure that if you can, budget and just put, even if it's just $25 more, anything is better than just the minimum payment.
All right, guys. So y'all heard her loud and clear. Don't be out here paying on no one purchase for no 10 years, y'all. Don't do it. And lastly, right before I go back to Cynthia, Kiana, I recently found out there is a difference in the payment due date versus the statement date. Can you, can you shed some light? Because that is a game changer.
It is. It really, really is. Because what can happen is by the time you've paid the bill, you might have utilized it again. And then when it reports, it can be a completely different balance than what you thought. So you can find out their payment due, your statement date a number of ways. You can call them up and ask, or you can just look on whatever credit monitoring website you use, which hopefully everybody uses some type of website to monitor their credit, and just see which date they're reporting every month. It's super important to have the balances low by that date. In my experience, it's generally a couple days after the due date. So for example, one of my accounts are due the 6th of every month, and they report by, like, let's say the 9th or the 10th. So, you would just have to find out what those individual dates are for your card.
That's great advice. Thank you so much. So Cynthia, take us back to Farmingdale and college, and they are sending you these credit cards, girl, and you running them up.
Yeah, running them up and just getting in debt, and even when it came to the college loans and stuff like that, when I was in college, like that ended up like being on my credit report. And even there, I wasn't educated, and Kiana may be able to kind of elaborate on it. But one of the issues that I ended up seeing where I had to pay it like years later is that I was like a minor. So I think when we're in college and we're signing all these papers for like FAFSA and stuff like that, and our parents are taking out loans, what they don't tell you is that, like, if something was to happen to your parent or anything like that, you're going to be responsible for that debt. And if you're not really educated and understanding, you just signing stuff. And that's how me and my mom was, because my mom she was not a high school graduate. She was a high school dropout, because she chose to be there with, my siblings and raise us and be a homemaker, and she was an entrepreneur in her own right, except she didn't do it official. You know what I'm saying? But not having that knowledge. And then these years later, I'm looking at my credit report and I'm just like, oh my God, what is this? Like, I thought that debt went with my mom and it was there. So just making sure that even with your kids, that you're making sure that they're educated. So the things that they're signing, you as a parent, you want to make sure, I'm not sure if they have anything like that, but maybe getting some type of loans that if something was to happen to me as a parent, it would not fall on my children. Like, that debt goes with me. So I don't know if they have anything like that when it comes to the colleges, but scholarships too, making sure you're getting scholarships. But it was just bad in regards to like my credit. And then it's like when you're coming together in a marriage, in the beginning, me and Dre really didn't have those conversations in regards to habits and money. It was just kind of like, as we just kind of like went along with our relationship and things like that, we got to see each other's weaknesses and habits, spending habits. And it's just like, okay, we got a joint account. We not communicating. He's swiping the card. I'm swiping the card. It's just like, oh my God, overdraft. What happened?
Girl, okay, so I got to pause right there too, Cynthia, because sis, let me tell you something. Okay, y'all. I'm telling all my little business tonight. So I was the guilty party. So Dwayne is the responsible one, right? Like, yeah. I'm the one like, let's have fun. But you're absolutely right, Cynthia. You're in the beginning of the relationship. You're just in love. You're just so happy to be spending time with this person that you're really not thinking about how often you're swiping that card.
Yeah.
And Kiana, what does that look like fast forwarded, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later in a marriage when both parties have their own credit that's now merging?
Oof.
Girl.
It's usually one person that is the spender and one person that's a saver. And then when they identify who that is, they can kind of move forward. Every now and then you'll find where it's like, you work with a couple and both of them are the spenders or both of them are, whatever. But for the most part, it's usually one person. And then by the time they come, they're like, oh, we got to fix all this stuff. I'm like, all right, let's work on it. So, what I have realized is, which I was actually having a conversation with not too long ago, is those things you shouldn't have to wait until there's a goal you're about to accomplish to talk about them. It can kind of be a taboo subject for a lot of people. There are people who don't talk about finances, and in this case, that's something that you want to definitely discuss. Credit, spending, like same thing, Cynthia was saying earlier, the spending habits, and some things just don't come up till they come up. But if you brought them up before you see it, then it'll be a little bit better. So that's definitely my recommendation on that one.
Yes. And that was with Andrea and us. We had to identify our weaknesses and our strengths. And I'm like, okay, one of us got to be good at this. So we ended up being able to determine that when it came to like the structure and things like that, I was a little stronger with that. So what I would do is, because men, and this is not all men, but most men, like, you know, women in the marriage and just in the household, we're like the managers. So even if the man is making the bread, he gonna bring it and be like, okay, babe, take care of this. So God had to develop me to be that manager. So what I would do, I understood, you know, that my husband wasn't really strong with communicating, swiping, you know, because he might be doing stuff, he might forget. So I would make it a habit to check the account every day and see what it was that was spent out, and really try to make sure that we were being good stewards, you know. So I had to go through that. So
Cynthia, how often did you say you check that account, sis?
Every day, girl, every day.
We avoiding overdrafts, y'all, every day.
Yes.
Every day. And it was still a hassle. Like, and that's why I want people to understand, like, you know, you see the story, you see that, oh, Cindy bought the house and it's like, oh, great, and stuff like that. But the process that me and Andre went through for years, like before God released that, you know, we had to get processed. We had to go through the process because God, I was talking to my financial coach, Miss Shelly Tola. Used to be Robinson, but she married now, right? My financial coach. And I was just telling her that I just felt like with me and Andre's journey, you know, before he, you know, passed away, and it's, you know, the seeds are still manifested now, the promises of God. But I just felt like God didn't want us to just obtain a house, but he wanted us to obtain a house and wealth, but he wanted us to retain it. Not just obtain it, but retain it where we're able to keep it. Not get the house and then it goes into foreclosure because our habits haven't changed, our mindset hasn't changed or anything like that. Your mind has to do a shifting. And when it comes to home ownership, so you understand what's needed to be done so you can actually keep that blessing, you know. So we had to go through that process. And as being self-employed, me and my husband both are dreamers. We both had big visions. Like when me and Andre got married, he was doing music before he met me. I was doing childcare, and then we kind of came together. And it was a struggle when you have two dreamers in the house, two entrepreneurs in the house, and y'all both are like, you know, going at. But what we had to understand is that we had to figure out what was best for our family and kind of work together, you know, so that way our children wasn't left to the wayside, and it wasn't like we was competing or anything like that. So God had to really grow us in that aspect. But we went through, you know, very public failures. We went through having the daycare, right? We moved the daycare out of the house into a facility. And when I say, oh my God, those first few years when we transitioned from the house to a facility, because we had bad credit, like everything with our daycare has been built off of our funding, no loans, no grants or anything like that. So we was at the daycare and you look outside, the repo man coming to get a car. Like, this is the type of stuff that Andre and I went through behind the scenes when God was processing us before we got in a position to buy this house. Cars get repossessed. I mean, this house, before we moved here, the previous 3 places we were at, we got evicted from all 3.
My God.
You understand what I'm saying? All 3. So I just want that to be encouraging for anybody that might be listening and you're in a marriage and you guys are going through that season. And what ended up happening is, you know, I'm the prayer warrior, right? Dre pray, but I pray. He was always laughing at me, you know, like saying, look, that was me. I was the intercessor for our family. So it was like, you know what? The buck stops here. Right. Ain't no more repos happening. Ain't no more evictions happening. No, because what the issue isn't the landlord. The issue isn't the rent. The issue isn't the place. The issue is us. The issue is our spending habits. The issue is our mindset. The issue is our stewardship, because I'm like, we making this money and stuff. No, we got to get better with this. So it was like the buck stops here.
That's so important, Cynthia, to take that accountability. And thank you. And people are in the chat saying great advice. Awesome. Thank you. Your testimony is so awesome, Cynthia. It's the transparency, right? And that's one thing about you. You have always been transparent, and your goal has always been to help the next person get to that place that they're looking to get to in life, but also to tell an honest story, because you're right. Too often we show up on social media living our best lie. Let's tell it what it is, right? People show up living their best lie, and people don't understand like the tireless hours, or like you said, the evictions or the repos that happen. That's the thing about it, Cynthia. What I respect so much about you is you did the work. Yes, so often people are like, Audrey, I want to buy a house. And I'm like, okay, we can have this conversation, but they don't want to do the work. They don't want to change the mindset. They don't want to change the spending habits. So if I read something, and Kiana, I'm sure you'll agree with this. And basically what it said was each dollar should have a job. What is that dollar's job? Like, are you just blowing this money, or is this money compounding? Are you investing it? Are you putting it towards a goal? What is your money's job? Like, these are individual employees. Like, if you have $500, how are these 500 employees, AKA dollars, getting you to the next step?
Yeah.
Which in this case, we're talking home ownership. Y'all got me all fired up on here. So
yeah. And even and even to that point, that was one of the tips like that I wanted to give all inspiring entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, married couples, even, if you're a single mom, just making sure so what ended up happening is we had to look at our finances. I had to literally create a budget and figure out, okay, what is needed, what are the things that we like, right? And you have to be realistic, and I think that's when a lot of people fail, because you think that you have to cut back on everything. No, you just have to budget it. Right. So it got to the point, my husband loved bowling, right? He loves bowling. So it had to get to the point where I budgeted that stuff in for us, for him to be able to go out bowling with his friends, because everything we brought in, it was together. So I'm a dead dad right there for all the married couples where it's just like, oh, we got to have separate accounts. No, that's division. You can have one if you want to have a separate account so you can do little surprises, but you're equally,
money.
One, right?
Yeah.
Don't allow the enemy to come in where it's just like y'all operating separately, like y'all still single. Like, you have to be able to operate as one. So you need an account together, because y'all have to learn how to operate as one, because if your credit jacked up and his credit is good, you still not winning. Y'all both have to be able to win. Y'all both have to be able to in a position where both of your names can be on the deed, both of y'all can get the loan, and that's what people be missing.
Right.
So we had to get to that point. So I budgeted in, I'm not strong with hair, right? When it comes to my girls. So I figured out how much it costs for someone to do their hair, what I need to make, and I budgeted in my nails. I budgeted that in. So instead of me going, I'm from New York, Brooklyn, we always get our doobies every 2 weeks, nails done every 2 weeks. No, I did it. I set it up where it was just like I would get my stuff done once a month.
Right.
And I made sure I maintained it.
That's so helpful. Because the way you were realistic, you didn't say, okay, I just want to cut everything off. I want to not get it. You're like, no, I'm going to eventually need my hair done. I'm going to eventually need my nails done.
Yeah.
People in this all or nothing approach, which is really unhealthy, and it just end up leading to overspending, really, versus making a budget for every single thing and being realistic on what you're going to do. People say, I'm going to cut out my $3 cup of coffee. And I'm like, well, if that's going to get you through the day to earn the money, don't cut out your cup of
Right.
coffee. Just take it in your budget. If you got to have coffee to see, because, but you got to take that approach. And that's why I wanted to say that, because that's the perfect approach you can take to creating a budget and following through with it. That realism there. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It took, go ahead, Audrey.
I was going to say, just piggybacking off of budget. So there are so many different budget structures out there. Kiana, do you have one or two that you recommend for folks to follow to have a successful lifestyle, right? So they can still have they can make sure the needs are met, the household needs are met, the family needs are met. They can still have their wants, but then you also still have and the ability to save, to invest, and also to be able to have some fun, right?
Yeah,
that's true. Like for me, I would suggest it, of course, is just my first tip when it comes to budgeting is actually pull up your bank statements. Don't go by what you think you're spending every month. That's going to be, that's going to just be in your head. But pull up your actual statements and see what you are spending every single month. It is a completely eye-opener. It's a complete eye-opener. You can go on there and look at what you're spending and then determine your budget. You want to see it first before you can even start fixing it. You have to just face everything that you're actually doing. I always tell my clients, you got to face it to fix it, because sometimes things can seem so overwhelming that we don't even want to face it. We'd be like, look, I just get that a whole nother time, whatever the case may be. But facing it really is the first step. Hey, I overspend. Hey, it's not a lack of income. It's a money management issue. Hey, I need to invest this, So the first step is to definitely identify your problems. The same thing Cynthia was just saying. And then I tell people to pull your pull your bank statements, see what you're spending, and then you get your percentages down that work for your household. My percentages might look different from somebody else's, and yours might look different from me. So I might say, well, I'm gonna save 20%. Another person say, well, I have a little extra money. I'm gonna save 40% of my check. Another person might say, well, I'm a heavy investor, so I'm gonna invest 20%. You go ahead and save it, but I'll save 10 and I'm gonna invest 20. So you look at what percentages work for your household combined, and then you just stick to it, and then you adjust along the way. You might, you might see something that you're like, I don't really want to get rid of that. I'm good, but I'll budget though. And through budgeting, what ends up happening is you create more income. Like the income was already there anyway, but you create more breathing room. So you have breathing room between what you earn and what you're spending. It's not like a tight, a tight thing. And one of the main things I teach, I know this is like extra, but one of the main things I teach people is when you first start getting income adjustments, you don't have to necessarily change your lifestyle initially. We first get a raise, we get a bonus, we get a check, and we got a new car, we got this, we got that. But give yourself that breathing room. Okay, I made it to 6 figures this year, cool. But I don't got to go out and get that car just yet. I don't got to get a 6-figure car because I made 6 figures. You get what I'm saying? Right. So you have to do what's best for you. Do that. Create the plan. You can still get that because I'm queen of get what you like. Do you? I'm just saying put a strategy in place. I love a little luxury. Right. I'm just saying do it with a strategy and being strategic about what you're doing and the things you're trying to accomplish and giving yourself that breathing room.
I love it. Cynthia, I want to ask you a quick question because Kiana, you just said something that struck a chord with me, which is, okay, so guess what? You hit that 6 figures. Congratulations. That's fantastic. But Cynthia, let's be honest, for us folks that are full-time entrepreneurs, 6 figures ain't really 6 figures. Can somebody tell the truth up in here? Can somebody tell the truth?
Listen, it is start that way. Look, are there now. Don't nobody be calling me talk about can I borrow $1. But look.
Listen.
Yes, but let me tell you,
I felt
going from the house, I was I guess a solopreneur, self-employed. And we gotta come back on and do this again because this is a whole nother subject, and I want to stay focused. But just to make it really simplified, it's different levels to entrepreneurship. You have the solopreneurs, the entrepreneurs, you have the CEOs, the executives. It's all different, and people kind of tend to map it all together, and it's not right. And I had to learn that. So when I was in the house, everything was just under my social. I had it as Heaven Sent Childcare, but it was under my social. So I didn't have a separate tax return or anything like that. And one of the things that one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make is not really distinguishing between their personal and the actual business. So I don't care if it just start with just you. Get an LLC, please. Don't put it under your social, like separate it so that way you can set yourself up official from the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the issues that I had in the very beginning with Andre and I was the fact that I wasn't getting no checks. You know, we wasn't getting no checks, right? And we was thinking, okay, well, it's showing that we made all this money, but then it's just like we got all these write-offs.
Right.
So like after all the write-offs, you know, it's not showing you making a profit or showing you negative. Nobody's going to give you a loan.
Let's pause right there for a second, Cynthia, because you're so right. Like so many people, like we were just talking, 6 figures isn't really 6 figures. So for the entrepreneurs out there, if you made 6 figures, right, congratulations. That's a big feat, right? That's amazing. But then if you turn around and write off $50,000, guess what? That's what you made, $50,000. They're not going to, a lender is not going to account for you making 6 figures. They're not going to account for 100K. They're going to account for what's not written off. So I want to be crystal clear about that, because I don't know that folks know that information. And then they go and they get disappointed when they're going to try to get home loans because they're like, wait a minute, I made 6 figures. I don't understand why I can't qualify for this house. Sis, you wrote off 50 grand.
Exactly.
Story too, several years ago. And I had made the 6 figures. I was like, yeah, you know, I'm so excited. And I had never had any problems with home approvals prior, because when I worked in my W-2, I'm like, oh, I got my approval easily. And then I kind of ran it on back. And I was like, okay, well, I'd have made my 6 figures. I'm cool. They're like, no, but you wrote off everything. And then they were trying to work the loan to make it work. And I had originally got under contract. I was packed up and everything. And then I get a message like, we can't approve this loan. Granted, I feel like it should have been called in the beginning, but that's another story for another day. However, I went all the way to the week of fully packed house. And they were like, we can't do this. And the funny part about it, at that point, that was like 6 or 7 years ago or so. At that point, like I'm like, I never had a problem with getting pre-approved. I had helped other people, but it was because I made the 6 figures. And that previous year, I had wrote them off. Not even wrote off that much, but you know, it wasn't. I hadn't been in the game long enough to really, really know as much as I know now. You know, so I tell people my story every now and then, like, look, don't be like me. I did like, that was the worst. I didn't know about it, though. You know, I was thinking, well, I ain't have no problems in the past. And it's so easy when you got a W-2. It's like, oh, just turn all this stuff in. It's so easy. And then when I was, you know, I was thinking the money was going to help me get this house. I was like, I made 6 figures and I had a good amount saved up. So I'm like, if anybody, and I had the perfect credit score. So I'm like, if anybody gonna have a problem, it ain't gonna be me. Oh, I was wrong. I was so wrong. Just from 1 year of writing off my taxes. So, you know, now I tell my story sometimes and tell other people, like, look, do not be like me. I have had my share of mistakes. And you don't want to be that way. Not as an entrepreneur. Like, don't do that, because it's only going to show who can get a person. If you made 6 figures, you made 100,000, and you write off 90,000. Who will give a person a house for 10,000 that got 10,000?
Nobody.
Exactly.
So you definitely don't want to do that. Definitely.
That's it. Thank you so much for that share, Kiana, because you know, so often, y'all tell me if y'all feel this way. Sometimes because I'm an adult, right? Because I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a wife, I'm all of these things. Like, I feel like I'm supposed to know it all. Anybody else ever feel like that? And it's like, when you don't, it's like, oh, I can't believe, like, why didn't I know this? But if that's not your area of expertise, I'm going to be the first to say it's okay. It's okay to not have all the answers. And that's why you look for people that do. You look for people like Kiana, right? Who can help you with your credit repair. You look for folks like Cynthia Williams-Bey, who has been in business for 16 years now.
Yes, you're on 17. It'll be 17. Yeah.
In May, right? Is it May?
Yep. It'll be 17 years
in May. You look for, of course, if you're looking for a house, you look for me and a real estate agent. So look for the experts, guys. So we're going to I'm watching the time. We're going to wrap it up in about 5 minutes here. I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation, and we are going to have to continue it at another date. But I do want, Cynthia, for you to share with us. So you were taking us through the journey. Hey, it started back in college when I'm first starting to build credit, and I don't realize that I'm running up credit cards that are eventually going to come back to haunt me. I don't realize that eventually these student loans are going to be an issue. They're going to fall back on me. And then we fast forward. Okay, well, now I'm married, and now we're trying to manage mindset and money under one roof, right?
Yeah.
And then fast forward to you and Dre decide that, hey, we want to buy this house. You guys had been renting for a while, and you decide we're going to buy this house. What did that journey look like?
Well, one thing I would have to say, you know, that's really important, that was very important in this journey, with being able to buy the house that we was renting, is we had to be able to be good stewards over just being able to rent. So we had to make sure that we honored those, you know, and I don't want nobody to over make this religious or anything, like over spiritualize what I'm about to say, but I'm saying honor those that we have debts with. So it had to get to a point where it was just like, okay, God, I'm wanting this and I'm wanting to buy a house, but how can you really give me a house, or how can I get what I need when I'm having people at my business paying me late and things are crazy? And God spoke to me very audibly and clearly and said, you know, what you sow comes back. So I had to get into a position where it was just like, regardless of what people had going on, if they was late paying me, I needed to make sure that my bills was paid on time. And I had to honor that. And I had to humble myself and be honest with people. And being honest in regards to our situation with the landlord that actually sold us the place, he was able to really see the God in us. You know, just being honest with him, transparent with him, talking with him, you know, and keeping our word. You understand what I'm saying? And then he started seeing us actually walking in it as if it was our house. So just real quick, we had a situation last, like around the pandemic, when we was just like, okay, there's something going on. Dre wanted to do the floors, right? And him doing the floors and us pulling some things up because he was doing it himself, right? We was just like, you know, we've been here and, you know, we just feel like it's ours. Let's do some stuff or whatever. And when we pulled it up, we found out it was mold, and not a small amount of mold, like a large amount of mold, you know, and that's what led us to pull it up, because it was just like, okay, it's the pandemic and I know stuff is going around, but why I'm having trouble breathing and the kids and all congested or whatever. Well, we have mold in the house. And in that moment, I feel that that was our test, because I could have, or he could have had the mindset like, you know, it ain't our house. Let's call the landlord, have him do it. You know what we did? We say, you know what? It's worth the investment. Even if we don't buy it, this landlord we've had so much favor with him that we want to be a blessing to him. So we fixed it. And I'm not talking about a small amount of money. We fixed it, pulled up, we brought in contractors, pulled up the floor, fixed the thing, fixed all this stuff. And then you know what we did? After we fixed everything, we brought the landlord here with his wife for them to walk through the house to see the improvements we made.
Wow.
And they was just like shocked. We started operating as owners.
That's
and we started honoring him by making sure that we pay our rent on time. So in this economy now, right? Now, even though Andre has passed on, because of that relationship that we have built with him, because of him seeing that we were actually being people of our word and the way we was taking care of the house, guess what? We had favor. So while everybody's in the midst of the market trying to figure out where they're going to go, they're having to, you know, get into bidding wars and stuff like that. I didn't have to deal with any of that. He honored that promise that he had with Andre and us, and actually sold us the house.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
so. Yeah.
Right. Oh my goodness gracious, y'all! I don't. That's a whole nother conversation. So Cynthia, I want to piggyback off of what you just said, and I want you to sum up probably in about a sentence or two how Kiana was able to help you get to the point in, because you're doing all the right things. You're being a good steward. You're honoring the landlord by making sure your bills are paid on time. You're doing all the right things. What was some of the advice that Kiana gave you that was game changing, and frankly that gave you hope? Because this whole time you're like, this is what I want, but how do I get there? And you sought out an expert. So what was some of the advice that she gave you that really made the difference for you and your family to become homeowners?
Yes, and that part, I wanted to make sure I said that. People, humble yourselves. Get the help that you need, right? You don't know everything. Don't try to do it alone. Everybody's situation is different. So just because this person went to this person or they did this themselves, it's all different. So, first it was just taking the step to actually, trust her. You understand what I'm saying? Like, trust her. And I was just like, you know what? We got to trust, right? So signed up with her. Everything that she said, her system and stuff is flawless. Like, it's unmatched. It's flawless. I was like, look at this. All right now, come on, sister. I'm like, this is a whole corporation what she got going here. And she essentially, she goes over everything. You upload it. Well, I ain't gonna tell you secrets in regards to how you do your business, but it was very professional, right? Yes. And she sent an email out immediately. Oh, like, okay, do this. Open this card here. Make sure you pay this on time. We're going to dispute this, right? So it was just like I had to stay alert with her emails and do everything that she was telling us to do. And I had to make sure I did it times 2. So I had to do it for me and I had to do it for Andre. I had to upload his stuff. I had to look at the emails and Andre, we got to do this, right? And it was a process. It wasn't like overnight. It was like I've been with her for a couple of years.
Yeah. So that's so important.
Yeah.
That's so important to hear, Cynthia, because I think people, going into it, if you in your mind think that I'm going to be a homeowner in 6 months and your credit says otherwise, it can be very discouraging if you're not a homeowner in 6 months, because again, too often we're looking at other people's journey and we don't know the backstory. We don't know that it took years for them to get there. So it's so important to understand, guys, that this might not be your season to buy a home. And guess what? That's okay. But honor the commitments that you currently have, right? Yes. Because your season may be in 2023. It may be in 2024, but you have experts like Kiana here that can get you there. But you have to do exactly what Cynthia said, which is trust the process. Kiana, where can we find you with this whole corporation, sis? Where can we find you, girl?
So weak. You can go, I guess the best place is my name that's right there, Kiana Henderson, literally KianaHenderson.com. And you can see all the different services, the offers I have, pretty much everything. I'm on social media under the exact same thing. Facebook, Kiana Henderson. I usually hang out on my business page more. And then my Instagram, I think it's Kiana_Henderson. So yeah, that's pretty much the main place you can find me. I have a free group. I have a lot of different things. Once you come to my website, it'll kind of guide you through different things that you can do and tips and different things. So
y'all, if y'all don't go to KianaHenderson.com, because I just heard her say she got free resources. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I don't take advantage.
Yes, plenty of tips on my website. You can download tips. You can join my free group. There's so much. If you just search my name on social media, the tips go back from like the last 7 or 8 years. So there's a whole lot of them on there.
Y'all, she not new to this. She true to this. She's been doing it a while.
Yes, and that's why I appreciate you all for even having me on here. First, I wanted to say thank you. And then just thank you to Cynthia, because y'all were amazing clients. To have, like, no headaches, no nothing. It was like y'all did this, and that. And it was just a beautiful process. And I found the message that you all sent, and that's what I wanted to say before before this is over. I found the message that you sent that said, we just want to get the house that we have been in. I think you said 12 years. Was it 12 years?
Yeah. Yeah.
You said we've been here for 12 years, and that is our goal. And I found that, and to see it happen, listen,
Wow.
I saw that first message, that tears just flowed down my eyes, because I was like, this is what this is about, changing lives. Yeah. It's not just one person that's going to be impacted, but this is your kids impacted. This goes into your legacy. All these different things are contributing to that. So just to see that message of a goal, and then to see it happen and become a reality, it's so encouraging. And, I wanted to encourage anybody else as well with that goal. It will happen for you, definitely.
Yeah. And I wanted to say really quickly, because you had said something about face and stuff, like not to run away from things. And that's one thing I want to encourage, like anybody that's looking and you might feel discouraged because you might be in debt, you might be, struggling between jobs. One person might be working, the other person might not, be working. There's some feedback coming through.
Yeah, the feedback.
You hear that?
It might be my phone.
Oh. I don't hear it now.
Okay.
It's weird, some type of feedback. But I just wanted to encourage to face it, because if me and Andre had ran and not stayed in position and fought to get in a better position and be obedient to the process, I would have missed out. We would have missed out on purchasing this house. Yeah. So it was just like, when things were hard, instead of moving and just continue to create a blood trail to every landlord, we stayed in position and figure out what we needed to do. So, don't move. Moving is not going to help. Don't give up. Like, stay in position, figure out what it is that you have to do. Face things, face your debtors, figure it out. Like, that's what you have to do. And once you do that, this is the other side of it,
Yes,
and then
this
the other side of it. And then the other thing too, just make sure, just as a family, that you have your stuff in order when it comes to your will, when it comes to, having life insurance and things like that. The work that we did is what got us here. But God forbid, if anything was to happen, it just helps. I'm saying, like, if something was to happen to your spouse or anything like that, you want to be able to know that your family will be taken care of, if something was to happen to you. So just, make sure that you have things in order, make sure that you handle stuff, and take care of your business. When it comes, all you entrepreneurs, take care of your business. Like, make sure that's in order, because the way God did it with us, it wasn't the business go up here and our house down here, or the house go up here and the business there. Like, we had to make sure we was good stewards over our home, and we also had to make sure we were stewards over the business, because it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, that's so true. So Cynthia, I want to y'all don't judge me, to put in a shameless plug here. How important you see that, Kiana? You see what I did right there?
I love it.
How important would you say it was to have a real estate professional with you along this process of home ownership? Because in this market, it's a hot market. So we have a lot of folks that are like, I'm going to sell my own house. Do y'all know it's 117 steps to sell in a house? I don't know if you knew that, but that's how many steps it is. So, Cynthia, full transparency, what would you say? What are your thoughts on actually having a professional there with you for that home buying experience?
First off, let me tell y'all, Mrs. Audrey, because she's a married woman. Man, when I tell you guys the process, like, it was just so crazy, because I look at everybody's different stories, and I've heard all these horror stories about, oh, it's so hard when you buy a house, and the process, this and this happened. I didn't experience any of that, and I guess as a result of just kind of having things in order, and then having Audrey. So, like, I mean, when I say she's official, her team's official, like, it's like everything that I needed there was communication. I mean, it was to the point where, listen, Audrey came over. I had to go and get the stuff for the car. Audrey came over here. Auntie Audrey came over here and sat with the baby. She came and sat with the baby, y'all.
I sure did. With her little cute self.
She like went above and beyond. I never had to reach out to her like, hey, Audrey, what's going on? Like, she always updated me. She was on everybody, seeing what the process was, what happened, what needed to be done. Like, it was just so seamless, you know, and it was trust, you know, and I trusted her. And I have to say this. Listen, guys, if y'all have friends, you know, family members that have particular businesses for a thing, like, you need to give people a chance, like, sow into them. You understand what I'm saying? Like, stop trying to take the cheap route with everything, you know, like, sow into your people and utilize the people that's how it should be. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Especially us as Christians, we should lack nothing, because everything that we need should be in the body. I should be able to go to my realtor sister and pay her for it, right? I should be able to go to my credit sister and pay her for it. And that's how we all succeed, because now I'm pouring into her a seed, right? And then it's coming right back to me. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, utilize the people that's around you. But it was just really great. Like, I mean, listen, just the experience. I would have thought that, Audrey, that you were a realtor for years.
Oh, thank you, sis.
You understand what I'm saying?
And yeah. You know what, Cynthia, I it's so humbling to me, because, you know, I have so much respect for you and I love you so much. And I'm like, I can't even get my words together, because it just meant so much that you thought of me. So thank you. It was the greatest moment to see your girls running around in the yard. Y'all, I'm gonna end right here. So Cynthia had a whole production at the end, right? Because y'all know right? That's how they do in the Williams-Bey house. Had a whole production in the end, at the end. And her girls, the littles, they were running around in the yard. They were supposed to be taking a photo, but they were running around in the yard picking flowers. And I was like, but that's their flowers, though. Their flowers belong to them babies. Let them babies pick their flowers. It was, when I tell you, that was the moment for me that I'm just like, God, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And that is huge. That is huge. So, ladies, if y'all want to end with one, what would you leave them with? A one-liner? Kiana, Cynthia, I'm going to have you do the same. And then we're going to end and let folks get to bedtime or dinner or whatever they do this time of night.
My number one thing to leave people with is start and be consistent. Because if you're not consistent, none of it will matter. You have to see it all the way through and just keep up that consistency until you reach the finish line.
I love that. That's great advice. Cynthia, what about you, honey?
Yes. And for me, with me being a widow, you know, I want to talk to those that are still married, and, you know, even some that may have lost a loved one, but I really want to talk to those that are still here, still living, still loving with each other, and they have this goal. Like, please make sure, you know, that you don't let y'all dreams drop, right? And especially the widows, like, if you lost a husband, or if you lost a wife, whatever y'all goals was, the promises of God doesn't stop because that person has transitioned. So you still got to fight and push through for that prophecy, and you still got to fight and push through for that goal, you know. And I know that Andre is just, you know, in spirit, just kind of like, man, saying you did it, you know, because you have to have that strength and keep your eyes on God, because he's going to give you the strength to get through, but you have to push through. Because I could have easily given up, you know, after Dre passed away. I could have easily been like, you know what, I give up. I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to leave. But I just remember the promise. I remember what God said he was going to do for us. And I just had to just go to him for strength and make it happen for my kids. And one of the things I want to say is, like, it matters. Your kids are watching, because this is a funny thing. When we were at the closing, right, and they announced, it was like, Mommy bought a house. My daughter, Mackenzie, was like she gave this look, like, and she looked like she was about to set it off, like Queen Latifah for me. I'm like, what's going on? You not happy? She was confused because she thought we were moving. So I had to explain to her, like, no, we bought the house that Daddy and I raised y'all in. And she was so happy. And it's just like, regardless of whatever the ups and downs, it's still memories. It's still your family. Give your kids that. Give them that where they're able to come back from college, like we see on TV, like the Huxtables and stuff like that. We see on TV where your kids get older, they come back from college, they could come back to that home. They could come back with their spouses and their kids, and they could see where you were raised. Like, give them that. You know, give them that. That's what I would leave with. Like, still contend for the promises, you know, and make sure things are good. So even if when you pass on, your seeds will still be blessing for generations beyond you.
Amen to that. Guys, we're going to end right there with that beautiful word from our sisters, Cynthia, Kiana. Again, I am so humbled to have even had you on tonight. I definitely look forward to continuing to work with you. Cynthia, it's a pleasure, girl. We got more properties to get. You know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And guys, thank you for tuning in. And y'all have a great night. You are at home with Audrey. And remember that your next chapter begins with your dream home. Have a good night, guys.
Love it. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.